So almost straight after UFC 280, we come into 281. The main event obviously being Israel Adesanya defending his middleweight championship against Alex Pereira, who has previously knocked him out, as everyone knows. I know obviously there's a built-in storyline there, but do you think they're pushing Alex a little bit too soon, too quickly, too much almost?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big problem is with Alex Pereira, of course, they've got that big built-in storyline. He's knocked out Izzy twice, like you've just said. But the problem is, who's he beaten in the UFC? His biggest win, Sean Strickland. But, sort of the difficult thing is you have Robert Whittaker there as a gatekeeper, beating up anyone else who could go into title contention. And then the problem is Whittaker's not ready for another title shot yet. It's been too soon. So then who do you give him? So then it kind of makes sense that you give him Alex Pereira, right?
It does make sense. Is it twice he's knocked him out, or did he knock him out once and another points?
Oh, yeah. So he beat him once by decision, then knockout, and now they're going to fight in MMA.
Yeah, we're going to say that. I'm quite sure. But that's true with Whittaker, sadly, to my demise. I mean, my boy Rob can't get it done twice. But the thing is, I've just asked if it's a bit too soon for Alex himself, but as if I'm not excited for this card, as if I'm complaining that Alex is fighting Israel. I'm not at all, because Israel isn't going to care what people think, but obviously he's perceived as a little boring now as a champion. I mean, you do what you can to win. It's not exactly WWE. You don't go out there. You aren't going to see him do a shooting star press, are you? But coming into this fight with Alex, who will come forward and will engage, not necessarily a prediction, Dwayne, but how do you see the actual fight itself playing out?
Yeah, well, you say it's not like WWE, but Izzy did come out as Undertaker last time, so maybe it is. Yeah. But the way that Izzy fights from the outside isn't going to work against Pereira, because don't forget, Izzy is so tall for that division, and Alex Pereira is just as tall as him, and probably a better striker, because don't forget, Islam retired from kickboxing, 3-5 years ago, something like that. Whereas Pereira has continued in that sport for a lot longer and improved his striking even more. Whereas Izzy sort of moved his training to a bit of wrestling, some grappling, more traditional boxing. He's been training different styles, whereas Pereira has just continued with his striking. And if Izzy fights the way he normally fights, if he makes it a kickboxing match, fighting from distance, he probably will get knocked out again. And, I'm trying not to show my bias, but I don't want to see that happen, because I don't think Pereira would make a particularly interesting champion. I feel like the second he goes up against a very well-rounded fighter, say like Rob, Vettori, even Paulo Costa, he's probably just going to get taken down and beaten there. So I really don't want to see him as champion. But if Izzy plays it smart, he is the better MMA fighter. So but the problem is, I said that with Sean Strickland, didn't I? In the predictions for that fight, I said, if he works on his clinch and gets him up against the fence, he could grind out a win, and he got knocked out in the first round. Embarrassingly.
Well, I mean, MMA maths doesn't make sense, does it? And it's just us chewing the fat, talking about what's up next, and what we actually think is going to happen. But I always wonder, with this fight, again, just as an armchair fan, someone who doesn't have a big fight coming up at all, apart from with the fridge that's broken. Because is there a lot of pressure on both Israel and Alex? Because Alex has beat Israel twice. He's knocked him out once. Does that bring pressure to, finish him again? Like, I've come into your world again and I've beat you. And does it create pressure for Israel? Because, like I said, a lot of people are thinking that he doesn't want to engage. He does what it needs to win. Is he going to come in and try and finish him and get caught? Or is he just going to keep him at distance? Or do you think Israel, being Israel, is going to want to shut people up and come out, put himself out there and maybe get a showcase finish?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on both of them, because don't forget, for Pereira, this is his one shot. If Pereira loses tonight, I don't think we'll ever see him not tonight. If Pereira loses on fight night, I don't think he'll ever get a title shot again. Just because, like I said before, I think when he comes up to well-rounded MMA fighters, he's going to lose, and he's going to keep getting pushed down. So this is kind of his one shot. And that's a lot of pressure to take into a fight, and especially when all the fans are expecting you to go out and knock him out again. But then the same applies for Izzy, doesn't it? He has lost to this guy twice, and he can pretend he doesn't care as much as he wants, but surely that sits with you, right? If someone knocked me out, I think I'd be intimidated. I'd be like, well, he's got that power, so I'm going to have to be so hesitant. And then, and like we said, the ways he fights, if he does that, he will get knocked out. So he's going to have to kind of change up his style, you know, and I'm really, really interested to see what he's going to do this time.
Yeah, so this is going to be, you get excited. You can tell that you're excited, Dwayne. The way that Alex is going to fight tonight, you know, a couple of weeks away, my mate.
I wish it was tonight.
Oh, Christ, yeah. But that's the main event, and that's like, you know, sort of early thoughts about it, because there's a lot of different factors. But speaking of different factors, core main event is Zhang Weili versus Chandler Esparza for the strawweight championship. Dwayne, we're not going to get into predictions because I think I've got an inkling as to who you're going to pick and what method of victory you're going to use. But let's not get into that. Just the actual fight itself. Is there still a stench from Chandler Esparza of a boring ass fight coming off the last one for you?
100%, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, that is probably the worst fight I've ever seen. Well, actually, I think Dada 5000 versus Kimbo Slice is probably the worst fight I've seen in Bellator.
Yeah.
And
there were a couple of schoolyard fights that I think maybe topped that, but I'm, you know, well,
but yeah, together. This definitely, it's the most boring fight I've ever seen in my life. I could not believe what I was seeing, and it just, but that's why Rose hasn't got another title shot, because it's so boring. Nobody wants to see that fight again. So Dana's not going to put it on, because don't forget, Rose has had a long title run. She's been champion on and off for quite a long period of time. She probably does deserve a rematch, but because it was so boring, because nobody would buy that pay-per-view, Zhang Weili's now getting that opportunity instead, right? And so, you know, that's the issue with putting on a boring fight.
Yeah, and I actually agree. I think Zhang deserves it as well. Again, it's got, who else would you put in there though as well? If it wasn't Zhang, I think she's going to become a two-time strawweight champion. Only the second person to do that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's lost to Rose twice, and you know, maybe you'd get a third one if Zhang beats Esparza convincingly, which I can see happening. To be honest, there's a little sort of preview, I guess. But yeah, who else would you put in there?
I think Mackenzie Dern had a lot of momentum behind her, and I think she probably would have got the title shot, but then she lost to Yan Xianan, and that seems to really sort of pulled the rug out from under her. And then you've got Rodriguez. She's fighting in like a week or so, and you know, she's probably in title contention as well. But I think with Zhang Weili being so dominant and being such a strong fighter, and the way she battered Joanna, she's really the only choice, isn't she? You know, and you know, taking bias out of it, of course, but I am glad to see her getting that title shot because I'm such a big fan. But I think she's gonna make this fight a lot more exciting than Rose would have done.
Yeah, I think she won't allow that to happen over five rounds. When you were saying that Rose and Esparza, there was the most boring fight that you've ever seen, I was going to bring up Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, but the only blessing there is that was 3 rounds, not 5. Do you remember I was at home at the time, Dwayne, and you said, I'll just tell you who won that, because I missed it. And you said, I'll just tell you who won that, so don't endure, don't put yourself through that torture.
Don't bother watching it.
Fight. Yeah, well, I mean, it is tough because, you know, obviously because Zhang's been grinding, and obviously coming off that devastating knockout of Joanna, you know, it's a statement that was cemented for herself, you know, to come through and, right, I'm going to come and get this title. Honestly, we're not, like I said, we're not actually giving official predictions right now, but I don't see a way out of it for Esparza, if I'm totally honest with you. But before we go down that route, Dwayne, we get to one of the most exciting fights on the card. I'm so excited for this one. We get Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. What's your, let's just say, thoughts on that one?
Well, I love Chandler. You know, everyone knows I'm a massive fan, and I know you're a big fan as well because he's so exciting, but that's his biggest downfall as well. Chandler just wants to go out and he wants to entertain people, but he puts himself in very difficult positions. I genuinely believe if he'd have just focused in that fight with Gagey and not gone, right, I'm going to walk to the center, point down and say, come on, come hit me, he could have won. He could have got a win there. And he's just so focused on entertaining. And I'm really hoping with Dustin, he can just focus. Just stick to what you know. He's a great wrestler. Just take Dustin down as much as you can. I don't care. Make it boring, Chandler. I'm not bothered. Just keep him on the floor for 3 rounds, please. I'm begging you. But I'm not biased at all.
No. And you definitely, you're not saying whether you do or don't like Dustin, are you?
No.
No. Yeah, I think it's going to be a real exciting one. Because, I mean, Dustin, he's a bit of a prize fighter. He don't fight too often. His last fight was against Oliveira, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Chandler, he's been making his way around. Like, what really annoys me is when people are like, well, he's only 2-2 in the UFC and he gets these big fights and stuff like that. You're like, where would you have him? Would you have him fighting the number 15 ranked guys or something and just running through him? He was the champion in Bellator. He's fought Eddie Alvarez and all these kind of people. Give him a bit of respect. We've done a video on this previously, but just in general, he's proved that he can hang with them. He does deserve this shot.
Yeah.
But where does this leave the winner, do you think? Because even, Islam, the champions, even come out and said, whoever wins that, I don't think they deserve a title shot, which I partially agree.
Well, I think now that Islam's the champion, it opens up title shots again. So, so you Oliveira beat Gage, Chandler, Dustin. You think, well, none of those 3 guys deserve a title shot while Oliveira's in that picture. But now that Islam's got the belt, it frees it back open. So, yeah, I think the winner of that could get a title shot. But the problem is the title's tied up already. The whole division's now on pause because you have Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. So now that division's on hold. It's difficult. I don't know what's the fight for them afterwards. I guess maybe fight Gage. But even then, you're fighting another guy who's lost. You can't keep having these 3 fighters just keep fighting each other over and over and over again and hoping that you get a title shot. Though, actually thinking about it, maybe they do fight Charles Oliveira again for that number 1 contender spot.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. But I mean, it's very easy for us, like we said, armchair fans, just sat there going, that makes sense. Go and do that. But there's a lot of different factors involved in it, isn't there? I can't see this one being dull. I think this is going to be fight of the night.
Yeah,
100%. I think this is going to be fireworks, and I'm glad to see that Chandler is very active because he's no spring chicken. He's even said so himself. He's coming over to fight the best, do whatever he can, and whether you agree with he deserves these shots or not, every single one of his fights in the UFC, all 4 of them have all been cracking, and you can't deny that. I really don't think you can. Overall, though, 281. I actually was, when you pair them up, I was more excited for 281 over 280. You've even got the veteran Frankie Edgar. Everyone loves him. You've got Dan Hooker on there. You've got Dominic Reyes, who I'm really excited to see come back. Hopefully he can get a win over Ryan Spann. But I think that's all we've got time for right now. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.